week on Storyboard, we speak to Ashish Limaye, CEO Happy Finish, about the Tata Motors virtual test drive campaign and what went into the creation of this innovation. We also speak to Jean Lin, Global CEO Isobar, on how agencies and marketers deal with all the changes that the business is experiencing. And on this week's notice board, we have an exclusive preview of the latest campaigns for Tata Sky and Make My Trip. Hello and welcome to Storyboard. This is Shibani Gharat. Recently, Tata Motors came up with an innovative route to promote their newly launched Tiago. As a part of a 4-page ad supplement in the Times of India's Mumbai, Delhi and Bangalore editions, readers could make their own virtual reality set that would allow them to experience a multi-dimensional test drive of the Tiago while sitting at home. Why was this innovation more than just a gimmick? Ashish Limaye, CEO Happy Finish, answers that for us. Let's see what he has to say.
One day you open the newspaper and there's this 4-page ad from Tata Tiago.
Right.
And then it tells you to do all kinds of funny things and you can get a virtual test drive.
Right.
Yeah?
Right.
So you got a newspaper and something was stuck on it.
Correct.
And then you have to assemble it. And then after we assembled it, what happened? What did it look like once you assembled it?
So it's a fairly simple process. That's how the assembled whole thing looks like, which is actually called a virtual gear.
Right.
And as you could see, it allows you to have an immersive experience in the form of a virtual drive.
Right.
It comes to you in the form of a standard newspaper, a 4-page jacket in Times of India. This is the space where it's been pasted.
Right.
And all one has to do is to basically, there's a step-by-step detailing in terms of what are the key steps for saying that this is step 1, step 2, step 3, step 4.
Right.
So it's more do-it-yourself.
Right.
And once you have realized that this is allowing you to take a virtual reality experience, you basically take the cardboard out. All you have to do is basically to download an app either from an iOS or an Android Play Store.
Right.
Slid in your phone into this particular cardboard, which is fairly easy to do. So as you could see that there are rubber bands to hold the phone properly so that your phone doesn't fall. Once you have downloaded the app, all you have to do is to go onto the app and book in the virtual test drive.
Right.
So that's how it goes. So as you could see that there are...
So it's 2 weeks since this campaign launched.
Right.
Now tell me why it's not a gimmick. You know, we're too used to innovations being not innovative. So is it just
for the heck of it?
For the heck of it.
It's a very valid question, and that's a question which we asked ourselves before we went on to this particular journey. One of the key quantitative parameter for us was to understand that how many people are actually getting engaged with it. We had 2.3 million copies across the markets of Bombay, Delhi and Bangalore. Post which we are obviously expecting the downloads to happen, which means people will go on either an app store or a play store to download it.
Right.
The downloads within the first 2 days of the ad getting released were in the range of about 27,000, which is a pretty good number considering that this is essentially a app which is purely about a virtual drive and not unlike any of the conventional app like a Zomato or an XYZ.
Right.
Post which the another important quantitative parameter for us was to understand that how many people are going on YouTube, because not everybody may want to just assemble an app and download an app and assemble a cardboard and go to see the virtual drive. But YouTube is the most obvious way of digital engagement. So the number of views on YouTube were about 170,000 plus, which is again a good parameter for us to assess that whether it's given that kind of an engagement or not. There were frequent social media mentions. It's been trending on Twitter across both Mumbai and Delhi markets. The Facebook shares were in the range of about 60,000 numbers. People have liked it, shared it multiple times across Facebook and social media, including Instagram. They're having YouTube video, which is actually user-generated content about somebody taking out the newspaper, taking the cardboard, assembling it, and taking pains to actually, upload a video on YouTube saying that how I had the first virtual drive experience in India.
Right.
So if you consider all these factors, and obviously there are going to be more data points, like for example, how many people visited the showroom actually.
Right.
There is also an option of saying that I want to book a test drive in the app, which is also a very good data point which we are yet to capture post the data gets emerged from Tata Motors technology team also. So these parameters put together give me a strong sense of conviction that it is not just a gimmick for the sake of doing a gimmick, one point, because the engagement factor has been really very high. And in a cluttered and a competitive market, which is basically an automotive segment in India, I think so it's important to have a high affinity towards the consumer, that the brand is good, people are talking about it, people are tweeting and referring about it. So that gives me a conviction that it's probably delivered the results which we were expecting.
Okay. Ashish, for the consumer it was very simple. He got the paper one day and there was a
Right.
cardboard, he assembled.
Right.
Now it's obviously not so simple in creating this whole communication.
Yep.
So it's not just Happy Finish and Tata Motors, there'll be a whole lot of other people. So,
Absolutely.
So tell me in a sort of for dummies way,
Okay.
what are the elements involved and how did the process start, how did it end?
Sure. So as you rightly mentioned, this was certainly not just Happy Finish and Tata Motors. It was a collaborative effort from many partners, and I think so I would want to kind of place on record all the help which has been received from partners like, for example, Square, Ogilvy, Wishcraft team. There has been a lot of input from the Lodestar, which is the agency for Tata Motors, and of course Tata Motors marketing team themselves, including Delna, Girish, Badal, Anirudh to a large extent. So the process started almost a year back. It was not something that we wanted to do an innovation and let's crack it in a span of like 2 weeks or 4 weeks. The process started about a year back. We worked backwards and we ourselves came up with a lot of ideas and rejected few of the ideas, considering that while mobile penetration is high, but the virtual reality experiences, compatible mobiles are still at a nascent stage in India. So we looked at all those factors and hence we zeroed down on having a virtual drive as one of the concept. We started with storyboarding the complete exercise. So Happy Finish did the complete storyboarding along with Tata Motors team, and of course we took inputs from Square at an appropriate time. We did the storyboarding, the scripting part of it. We did a location recce, because when you do a virtual drive, it's very important to understand it's soothing to you when you see that particular experience. So we almost scouted for some 6 or 7 different locations and then finally zeroed down on Lake House, which is actually a property owned by Tata Motors. So we did a location recce and then finally we went on to the shoot part. We shot for a period of 2 days. We had a crew from London who actually shot this complete exercise, and post which was a laborious task of actually stitching together a 360-degree video, because unlike a 2D format, a 360-degree video is basically 2 spheres which have to be put together and there is no overlapping. So the stitching part was important. We also did the color grading to ensure that the colors are looking seamless, bright and smooth. And then there was an aspect of doing a CG overlays, which is basically a CG callouts which talk about that this is an impact design feature and this is how the interiors look like and this is how the Harman audio looks like. So there were all these aspects which were put together. We had to compress the video, because if you make a video which is about 2 minutes in a virtual reality format with all these paraphernalia which include CG callouts and color graded stuff and all that stuff, you have to ensure that the app size in which it resides is less than 90 MB, which is actually a limit for Android Play Store, and equally so for an iOS. So we had to go through a lot of iteration to compress the video, which is a very, I would say, painstaking process to understand that the quality doesn't deteriorate, right? And post which that the app was designed. So we had to get involved in terms of the UX and the UI design of the app. So we created app for both iOS and Android Place. So the whole journey involved all these processes, which obviously took close to about 6 months of time in terms of putting it together. Then came the collaborative effort between partners like, for example, Wishcraft, who printed the complete cardboard. There was essentially involvement from the media team to understand that which media we could use to do this innovation, which could be the medium if this is the message. There was obviously involvement from Square and, needless to say, from Tata Motors. So that's how the process.
Now that this has happened and one brand has done it,
right,
are we going to see more brands doing it? And if so, what are the categories which lend themselves to using this efficiently and effectively?
In fact, a lot of brands have already shown traction. So I'm glad that people have recognized the fact that virtual reality can be a good medium to explore the immersiveness nature. Answering your question in terms of what categories, I would say that categories which are usual suspects like an automotive, there could be a lot of experiences for beverage brand, both alcoholic and non-alcoholic. We are talking about real estate, which is obviously huge because you can't take a real estate
almost
location.
like a test drive.
Exactly. So instead of doing a test drive of a car, I will show you a sample flat at the convenience of your home.
Right.
4G telecom, because obviously it's about the ease of connectivity and all that stuff. So that's again a category which we believe is going to be an early adopter of this. Another latent entrant could be life sciences, because while that's something which is more of B2B, but that's a huge segment which we are already witnessing a lot of traction from. And then infrastructure segment like earth-moving equipments, heavy engineering, and so on and so forth, these industries.
So, finally, last question. Awards, you're going to win awards with this?
We're keeping our fingers crossed. We obviously approached it with honest intentions, and I think so it's worked well. If we get award, I think so that would be obviously a icing on the cake. But we are quite happy with the output which we have got till date.
Perfect.
It's a happy finished product.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Well, looks like a smooth ride in virtual reality with a lot of effort that went behind the scenes. With that, it's time for us to slip into a short break. When we return, we speak to Jean Lin, Global CEO Isobar, who is speaking about the changing face of agencies.